Hey team, welcome to Small Creative Big World. I'm Barb.
And I'm Becky, and this podcast is a space for us to chat about all things being small creators on the internet.
Yes, and we have a fun topic today. We've talked about this a couple of times. In fact, it's probably been a red thread throughout a lot of our conversations. But in the not last episode, but the one before that and the one before that, I think it came up a little bit more. And I think you have some good points on it as well. So we thought today we'd do a bit more of a deep dive into it. And Becky, I know you had some thoughts on this, so why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, I feel like the topic which you guys have seen in the title of the podcast is really about finding sort of like what I call is your tribe. And essentially that's like a creator group or a group of friends that is sort of pursuing the same thing. So in my case, for example, I have like a group for writing Substack newsletters. I have another group for with Bob and a couple of the other girls from the Ali Abdal team, some sort of mastermind group that we have set up. And there's just various groups of this sort of in my life for different kind of creative pursuits. And I just felt like this is such a good way to sort of propel my creative energy to do something. Because it's not a sad reality, but like the reality was when I started off, I was just kind of like the only person that I knew in real life that was doing any sort of like creatory stuff. So whether that's like uploading stuff on YouTube, writing blogs, or like taking film photography, or just photography in general. Like I was just doing all of this in isolation. And what I found was it was really hard to sustain any sort of like creative momentum, because I would just like, if I wasn't psyched up, like that's basically it. The creative project is just killed. And I do think that it helped sort of train me up to keep going even when I'm not psyched up. I just felt like it was so much easier when I was just creating with like a group of people, which I don't know, Bob, did you experience that sort of way? Because you've also been like in the creatory world, and I don't know if you started off knowing these group of people or you started off like from the outside coming in.
Yes, really good point. Yeah, so when I started, okay, I think we might have talked about this in the very first episode. When I officially started my creator journey, which mostly externally I say is podcast, but actually is not true, because I had a mini adventure on Instagram when I was talking about finance stuff. And I got super excited, but I still needed people's validation around me to say, oh, that's a cool idea. Now, they weren't creators. I was still in corporate at the time. And but there were a couple of people at work that helped me. And that was so helpful. So one of them was also an Instagrammer. I say also, that makes me sound like I'm an Instagram. One of them was like actually on Instagram with a substantial following. It like at that point where it was like 50 or 75 or 100K or something. So she knew what she was doing, and I somehow found them, and they were really, really supportive. In fact, one of them literally just set up my Instagram.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which is so nice. So like, I think already I'd probably, now I'm thinking about it, I probably had found a couple of people, and I had somebody to go and ask. And I'm very bad at, it's not that I can't figure things out on my own, but my figuring out on my own involves talking to people. I think that's how I really digest things and really understand. And yeah, so sorry, long story short, actually, yeah, in hindsight, I had a couple of people to lean on in there. And when I got into the podcast, I kind of, again, unofficially, I think I found some people unintentionally. And then definitely when I got into YouTube, when I did the part-time YouTube Academy with Ali Abdal, that's when I really, really found what you call like my tribe, I guess. Like that, they were like my first group of people where I was like, oh my God, this feels so good. There's no one else that's like really doing the same stuff. Now that wasn't entirely true, because I think, like I said, I've been lucky enough in the previous two ventures where there had been creatives around me. And that even those one or two people made such a huge difference, because it's just that validation.
Yeah.
And it is also, they're a step ahead, or in some cases, many steps ahead. And they can just go, yeah, you're cool, just keep going. And that's enough. But yeah, when I found PTYA, that was huge. And it sounds like yours was the same with Rite of Passage.
Yeah, because I applied for PTYA and I didn't get in.
Gonna hold this over me for the rest of time.
Oh yeah, I wonder who was in charge of scholarships at that time.
For the record, I never reviewed a scholarship application. Okay, I will get to the bottom of who rejected you. I promise I'll have some words, but it wasn't me. Whether it was under my control or not, I'm sorry.
It's It's all good. I was just messing. But yeah, I was sort of, I think maybe like 6 to 8 months into my YouTube journey. Um, I was uploading every single week, even though it was hard to go at times because like things would happen, like I would get sick or I would just like feel unmotivated. But some dude on the internet said that uploading every single week would change your life. So that's what I was trying to do. And I was trying to get into said dude's program. Um, but
And said
because
dude program rejected you and said, nope, not good
yeah,
enough.
was like maybe YouTube is not for you. But no,
Well,
I did
maybe it was
continue
Ali.
on.
Maybe it was him that got hold of scholarships and he was like,
No,
no.
yeah,
Yeah, it
yeah.
wasn't. I'm sorry.
It's all good. Cause what happened after that? And again, when things are meant to be, it's meant to be. Because it did get on the team after all.
Hmm.
Doing exactly YouTube stuff. But
Out of interest, have you been through PTYA yet?
I have like bits and pieces. It's also like a chunky as heck course. There's like
I'm
a
aware.
hundred something modules or something. So I do
Yeah.
dip in and out of it as I need it.
Okay.
So if I'm like really focusing on like hooks, for example, then I would dip in and I would watch a bunch of stuff. And I know there's a lot of live sessions that still go on. And then when I'm working on thumbnails, I do that. I think I do less more of like the storyboarding and everything. But
Yeah.
or whatever. I think there's maybe bits about like lighting, gear, and stuff. So all the stuff I skip. Basically, I just dip in and out as I need it.
Yeah. That's actually a
Really
really good
handy.
way of approaching it.
Oh my god, it's so big. Otherwise, like you might as well have a project. I think that's how you should learn everything. Is you have a project and then you just figure out the relevant bits. To get that
Yes.
going.
I agree.
It's yeah. Otherwise, it's just too much theory and not much action.
Yes,
Which
which ironically we found with every single person that took, well, maybe not everyone, but like, 80% of people that took the course.
yeah. Okay, I see. It
Yeah.
it can be very overwhelming because this is also what I experienced in like Rite of Passage, which okay, so I ended up getting um applying to this writing school. I think it was from because Ali like did a shout out in his newsletter. Like Rite of Passage was like opening for doing a call out for students, like opening their cohort. It was cohort 10 when I joined. Um got into a scholarship and immediately it was very like overwhelming. Like with there were so many lessons and stuff. But to handhold us through it all, they had these things called peer mentorship groups. And it's like a specific time basically where you have like a little coach to like help you guide through stuff. And then we also had like an outcome that we had to deliver, which was we had to publish something every single week. Um and it was I guess that was like my first taste into being like, oh, actually like being able to bounce off ideas off of people and just get advice from people is actually really nice because we were all struggling with the same things like what do we name our Substack? Like what is our niche? What do we put as like our first post? Like all the struggles are so similar in the beginning. And then when I decided to continue on publishing every single week, because it was a 6 week program, but I think eventually the output was like 5 weeks. I think week one was like a little setup situation. Um, then I continued on with these things that we called like writer gyms, where you basically can come in and like brainstorm ideas together or like peer edit or like even just come in to just sit down and write and like co-write with like a bunch of people in like a silent Zoom room. Um, and then I think in the early stages, I always felt like writing was such like a heavy lift to write like a Substack essay. So after I finished publishing, you basically have to start working on the next one like kind of right away. But then I would be like so unexcited and so like drained. But if I bring a topic in and then I'm bouncing off of someone and just seeing like one other person being like, yes, that idea is so great, I so want to read it, that like is enough to get me fired up to like write that next draft. And with if I'm stuck, then I would just like share it to a group and be like, oh, I don't know what to do with like this opening section. And then somebody would come in and give feedback and that would like keep me going. So I just basically had that cycle um that really just set me up to creating yeah, to publishing still every single week for the past since then. Um
Question.
yes.
Sorry, side question. You are a writer by nature and by
Yes.
profession. Um, and it was still hard for you to publish these Substacks. Talk to me about that.
Oh, yeah, writing is hard. I don't think there's any way around it. I think writing is just really hard. It's you're taking like a story that has like so many different nuances and you're just trying to find like the most I think David Perel calls it like you're trying to find the most scenic way to present an idea. Like this most scenic route. Because like the simple story would be like every story can be said in a sentence. Um but then you just want to take people on a journey and then there's different ways that you want to take people on the journey. There's like um And the reality is, I think every writer is figuring out their piece as it goes, but you're not supposed to show that. You're supposed to kind of present yourself as if you know everything from the get-go, because it's supposed to sound coherent. Otherwise, it sounds a bit rambly. But no, writing is really hard. Picking an idea. I think in the beginning, which I've gotten over now, but like in the beginning, what I really struggled was like, oh, is this even like interesting enough to people, or like, is this even like new information to people? And I think over time, you just develop that sense of like, oh, and also through like feedback and conversations, which is also the pro about putting stuff on the internet, is you get to have conversations about your writing and your piece of work, which didn't used to happen in the past when you would publish something in a newspaper and you just don't know what people thought about it. But if you see some comments and some replies and people start like asking you the same questions over and over again, that's like a data point of like, oh, actually this bit is interesting. And then therefore I develop a better sense of like, oh, actually if I write about this topic, it will like hit for a certain amount of people. Um,
Mm.
but yeah, no,
No,
writing is hard.
I'm kind of glad you said
Hard.
that, and the reason I asked is because yeah, like I struggle to write.
Yeah.
I like really struggle. Like, and again, I may have said this on the podcast before, and you already know this, but like numbers are my thing. I can deal with numbers. I can make spreadsheets and Notion pages all day long, every day. But when it comes to putting words on a page, I find it
Yeah.
incredibly daunting and difficult and a heavy lift. But and I know if you find it obviously easier than that, but it's nice to also hear that as a writer, it is still a difficult process, because it's, again, in my head, it's like, oh, you like writers, they just sit down and do it. But yeah, it's reassuring to hear that it's also a process for you, and that even writers have to show up and have a little bit of like motivation, or to find other people to help them write.
Yeah. And I think what I guess what now I know after having like work with other writers, aka like other reporters and other writers that I used to professionally work with, is like a lot of our time is not spent writing. It's spent like reading. It's spent like really like just like thinking about the angle, thinking about like how to frame a certain like argument or certain discussion point, and how to make something interesting. Like a lot of time is really spent like pondering. And so by the time you see us like typing on the keyboard, like everything is already formed. Like the work has already been done. It's just like it's like, I guess in like computer terms, we're basically just like rendering what is already in our head, and that's like us typing out the words. Um, but figuring out how that's framed. I don't know if it's maybe similar with you and your like Notion brain. If you're just like mapping out the different ways it works in your head, and by the time you're like turning into blocks on a Notion page, you already know what you're doing. Um, and
Yes,
I
that's
think
actually
that
a
might
good
be the
point.
equivalent. Yeah,
Yes, I would mentally work through the problem, understand where it's going, probably
yeah,
pen and paper it in some cases if it's a bit more
yeah,
complicated. Really get to understand what I'm doing and know what my end. Actually, that's such a good point. I need to know what end goal is. I need to
yeah,
understand what I'm actually trying to do and what the purpose is.
yeah,
Because I find that if I go straight to a Notion page, it's actually too much. Like, it's not actually helpful at all. And
yeah.
especially with something like Notion, where it's just like it's so easy to over engineer things. I
Mm,
actually have to plan it out and map it away from a computer, so that you're right. So when I get to the computer, I
mm,
actually know, 80% of what I'm doing, and the other 20% is just a nuance of like, oh, actually I can't do that, or actually that didn't quite look like I wanted it to, and therefore I need to, change it on the fly or whatever. But
mm.
actually that's such a good point. There is a lot of planning. And yes, I've got better at the planning, so the more basic stuff is now a lot easier, or actually there's a template in my mind where I'm kind of
Yeah,
following it, it's 80% of the time, or whatever. But yes, you're right to
yeah.
do the planning.
Yeah. And again, these kind of discussions are really, really great to do in groups of like creator communities. But before I go back to the topic, I just want to touch on a little bit when you were saying writing is hard. I think my guess now that we've talked through this, is that you find writing is hard is because when you sit down in front of a Notion, like an empty Notion page, that's when you first start thinking like, oh my God, what am I going to write about? And that's where the process starts. Whereas like if I sit down on a Notion page, I already know what I'm writing about. So that's why it looks really, really different. Like that's why I can write out a Substack essay in like 30 minutes. It's because by the time I sit down, everything is like here. And I'm just figuring out the last 20% as I go. But I do have like an
Yeah,
active like bank of ideas that I
yeah,
like actively type into like throughout my days. I think I
yes.
can literally pull it up right now. I have like an essay idea tag on Rome that has 597 ideas in there, and I
Oh my
already like
god.
filter out everything that I've written.
Yeah.
So if I've written it, I like tag it differently. So these are like
Yes.
the ideas that are actively in my, well, not actively, but like they have at some point gone through my head.
Yes.
Um,
Okay, actually this is okay. What I would love to do, maybe even the next
yeah.
episode, at some point, let's dig into your writing process. I know we've
Oh,
touched on
okay.
it before, but actually I want to get nerdy and get into the nitty-gritty, and
Oh my God.
I almost want to go through every single step with you.
Okay.
Um
Oh my God.
from
This would be a super fun like video podcast where we can like screen share and stuff. Because I'm more than
Let's do
happy
it.
to do it
Yes.
like that.
Okay,
Um,
beautiful. We'll do that, and okay. That's one of the next couple of episodes. We'll do that. That'll be fun.
amazing.
Okay,
But
cool. I'll let you get back to the topic at hand.
yes. No, yeah, these are the kind of things that we nerd about in like creator groups is like legitimately have had this topic, these conversations, like where do you store your ideas? What app do you use to store your ideas? What app do you use to edit? Like, do you run your essay through like Hemingway AI, or do you use like ChatGPT, or how do you use ChatGPT to edit? Do you just do it in Google Docs? So these are conversations that are like so irrelevant to people who are not in your space. Like my group of friends who couldn't give like two shits about this. Like they would not even like think about like, oh, most of them don't even use Notion or Google Docs or anything, or they don't even like write outside of work. So these kind of questions are irrelevant, and just having like a group of people that you can talk about this with is um it's really nice. It's really validating. It also keeps you going because then you're like sharing resources with each other. Like I've experienced this not just in writing but also in like different fields. So when I was like a journalist, um I have like I was part of I'm still part of it. It's called the Asian American Journalists Association, and what we like our conversations was we were literally just trading each other like the best transcription software, the best way to like store our source interviews securely, the best way to keep our notes, the best way to archive all of our work and develop a portfolio of our work. What are like our basic questions that we ask people, like when um what sort of like what sort of mics that we bring. So it will be like these kind of mics, but the mics that we're talking about is literally like the Zoom recorders that like are handheld and then you can like shove in people's faces, like those kind of things. um oh, if you record a podcast and the person doesn't have a professional mic setup, what you need them to do is have like a phone and then have them hold it up like this as they record a voice note, and that is the best way to get the best audio, and then ask them to send you the voice note. So it's little things like that that I think is like really important. I guess it's more like an industry group, but because the creator economy is so informal, so it becomes like group chats kind of
Yeah,
thing. Um,
yeah,
yeah, and that's just, and I think like my creative energy is basically just like skyrocketed. Like the more I talk to like people who are in this space, because it's such an abnormal career choice. It's also such an abnormal hobby. Because I think the like the trap that we fall into, or the illusion that we have, is like, oh, everybody's a creator now. But honestly, if you look in your like real life circle, you're probably the only person posting stories on Instagram in a way that is like content creating-y. Um, and yeah, and it just like, and it means something to you versus like you just updating your friends.
yeah.
So yeah,
I I
it's
agree.
a lonely career path, but it
It
cannot be.
Yes, come join our non-existent community. For it to not be lonely. No, I completely agree. And it like you have all your WhatsApp groups of like the rite of passage people and all the side
Yeah.
things, and like I know that like, the PTYA ones are still going. And I'm not in all of them, but like even like the cohort one kind of just like
Wow.
started chatting again the other day, which was really cool. And it's like it's been 5 years, I think, since 5 years
Wow.
in November, I think, since the first cohort. And yeah, it's just really, really interesting. But again, there's how many friendships have been formed from it,
Mm.
how nice is it to be able to drop a message in one of these chats, just be like, I'm struggling with X, or I need some help with Y, or whatever, and just be like, cool, I have a
Mm.
group of people that get it. Even if nobody else in my world and my life does get it, these people get it, and I have somebody to kind of lean on. It's kind of really helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe I think literally just right before we started recording this episode, we were talking about like getting a logo for the podcast. And the first group that I tapped into was the Rite of Passage group to be like, hey, does anybody do design, logo design? Because I just know that these are again, there's like so many different groups, but like the most active ones I'm in or the rite of passage one. And I know like somebody would know somebody. And I immediately got a reply. So it's just like really, really helpful because everybody would have also needed to design a logo for their Substack at one point. So this is something that everybody kind of has a knowledge of. Um, yeah, it's just
Yeah.
group chats. That's where it's
No, I
at.
agree. I agree. And also, like you mentioned, like for just getting tips off people, like I know this is very slightly different, but I was speaking to two creators in the last week or so. Week or two, yeah. And yes, technically it was part of the creator coaching thing, but that's kind of irrelevant. And with both we were talking about editors, and I was like, here are all my tips of working with editors. And both of them were like, oh, I hadn't even thought about it. So both of them were working with editors without knowing, in my eyes, some of like the best practices and the way you should do it. If anyone is working with an editor, it's like, this is exactly how you should work with an editor. And again, it's been drilled into my head because I've done PTYA, 8 times live, and who knows how many times I've gone through the course content, and therefore it's almost second nature to me now. But yeah, there are people that don't know it that I would love to just like, this is the benefit of talking to people, right? And having
Yeah.
creative friends. You're not going to get that from anywhere else.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a part of it is yeah, I think the give and take in like these group chats are really, really great. Like when um in the time that I was like asking for feedback from people, I would also like give feedback to other people's drafts. And it's such a great way to form a friendship, but also just like something more than a friendship. It's like an informal working relationship, and it's a really nice thing because you're basically just helping and you're teeing each other up. And I think the same way that maybe we see some YouTubers like okay, like Peter McKinnon and Maddie Hapoya, they like if you see both of their videos, they have the exact same B-roll. And it's because they share their B-roll library. So it's like little things like this that like make creating easier. Um and it's just it's really helpful when you're like doing a project. It doesn't have to be the same project, but you're just working on it simultaneously. Um
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
agreed. That's very cool. I think it really does make the world of difference. And actually, just like even with the podcast, like I had a podcast in the past that kind of died a death, that I promise will be resurrected one day. But like you had wanted a podcast, and like we have now turned up, although all the episodes aren't out. But I think this is like our 8th podcast that we're
Yeah,
recording. And again, like it just makes the journey so much more fun being
does.
able to do it with somebody else versus on your own, because yeah, there are days where you're just like, I can't be bothered. Whereas there's always built-in accountability when you've got somebody
Mm,
else there with you.
yeah. So the next question is like, how do you find these people?
hmm Good question. I guess we were lucky enough to find our main ones, having done a course and
Yeah.
tapped into the community of the course. Um, which is, I guess, the obvious way, but not everyone has that option.
Mm.
So then what do you do?
Yeah, I've had people sort of cold reach out to me on Substack to be like, "Oh, I just want to get in touch with like other writers here." And then I think I've had people being introduced to me as well. And then I've seen yeah, people maybe if they're like commenting on each other's Substack, then they form a friendship that way. I think if you're not part of a pre-existing community, um, then there is a little bit more upfront effort that you might need to do to like reach out to people. But one thing that I found that actually has helped a lot is just host stuff. Um, so on the back of Rite of Passage ending, I realized like I really wanted to stay in touch with like the group of editors and coaches that were there because we were all like we were not a part of like the core rite of passage team. We were all on contract basically every single like for every single cohort. And I just found this group of people to be like a really, really cool bunch. Everybody who's like taking writing super seriously, and that's why they are showing up as contract staff as part of an online writing course. So until it died down, like every single month, I was sending out like a Zoom invite that I hosted to like everyone. I still have like an email list, and maybe I'll still do it like maybe in every couple months or when my life has like calmed down a little bit. Um, but it's just doing that and then just seeing one or two people show up and then just catching up with them, and then that could like literally be your crew. It's totally simple. I've had people come up to me and ask, oh, do you want to be like peer editing buddy? So I'll send you a draft each week, and then you send me a draft the other week. And then I think when that happens, maybe sometimes I'm like, oh, like maybe one-to-one is too much. But I also have this like other buddy that I know that is wanting to be accountable. Do you mind if we create like a three-way group chat? So there's always ways to host, and that I think is not the most straightforward like thing. Now it's become a little bit of like a second nature to me, because now I'm just like, because now I know enough people to be able to like connect people to each other. But it's such an easy thing to do, where you literally need like no capital. Sorry, oops. You need like no capital to
Someone's angry.
yeah. Yeah, you don't need it. Yeah, you don't need anything. You can just do things. It's the internet. That's great.
I completely agree. Okay, but there is an element of you kind of need to be on some kind of social platform here, right?
Yes. Yes. So
And also, actually, while I'm at it,
yeah.
how much? Okay, because there is cold outreach, and I'm all for cold outreach.
Yeah.
But there are different levels, and also I think there are. So there's probably an element of you don't want to like reach out to no one should be like reaching out to the Matt Diavellas or the Thomas Franks of the world, or like the
Yeah.
Ellie Abdals of the world. But at the same time, even now as people progress, like at some point people are gonna what I'm trying to say, you kind of almost need to find people at the same level as you, or at the same journey in the path as you, because in your path, no, that's not right. On the same point in your journey as you, because if you're completely starting out, like reaching out to
Yeah.
someone who has a ton of content and is quite busy and like is putting stuff out is probably not going to give you the same results as you finding somebody who's also starting out and needs that. And that's not to say that you can't reach out to people, but at that point you almost need a little bit of evidence, right? So like you reaching out as a complete like noob in the world
Yeah.
is very different to you having a catalog of or a backlog of videos on YouTube or like Substack articles or something. Yeah, sorry, that was my 2 cents, but I was just trying to ask you yours.
Yeah, no, I think you first have to show up. I think that's like I guess the flip side of you being on the internet is if you can't just like physically show up the way you would to like a public park and then that be enough. Like you have to have something to show. And then in the internet, that's like your content. It's like your Instagram, your YouTube, basically, so people can also like give you like do a vibe check on you before they like want to meet and stuff. Because that's how like I started off because I cannot have just one creative practice. I need to do a gazillion. I started off like painting and not knowing anything. And then what I did, I think literally I was just showing up to like Twitch streams and just chatting with people. And then finding out the Twitch streamer had like a Discord. So I would join Discord and then just started like sharing my like level 0 painting, and then like just being like, hey, what do you think? Like what would you like improve? Like what would you say is like the next, like I know this is bad, but like what would you say is like the next step that I should improve in? Um and then I've met like people that way too, where I've like followed people online. And then this is a wild story. I was in Melbourne, like my first trip to Melbourne, and I just looked over, like my friend and I were walking in a park, and I looked over at like some painters, people who were like painting, and I just like looked at them and I was like, they look familiar. And I followed them online. I'd been following them online for like 2 years. So I just went up to them. I was like, hey, are you a part of this group called like Warrior Painters? Um and then they were like, yeah. I'm like what? And then we just started talking. And then now like I'm in touch with them semi regularly. But it's just like these random, I guess it also is like, had I not come up to them, I guess that's like also a way where like the online transcended into like real life. But it also requires, I guess, like basically finding your group requires a little bit of proactiveness, um, in a
Yeah.
way that like if you join a course, you maybe don't have to be as proactive. You can be passive, and you would be like included in the group by default. Or there's like basically more chances of you getting put in a breakout room with somebody.
Yeah.
But when you're on your own, you just have to show up a little bit more.
Yeah, but you still need to put the effort in. And I think that point you
Yeah,
made earlier about you commenting and giving feedback as well, like you have to give to receive. And I think that's
yeah.
the people, like you're right. Even if you accidentally get put in a group because, you know, you're part of a community, like if you don't turn up and offer something to somebody else, why would somebody else keep turning up for you?
Yeah.
Like you have to put the effort in. And also a minor tangential point is you also learn a lot by giving other people feedback. And I think
Oh
people
yeah.
don't do that because they're like,
Yeah.
I just want all the feedback for me. But I don't think people
Uh,
realize how valuable giving other people feedback is and how
uh,
much you learn in the process, because you start to see things that you can't see in your own work
uh,
but will relate to your own work. So giving
uh,
feedback. So this is what we did with the Part-Time YouTuber Academy. We always encourage people to give feedback on other people's videos. And what you'd realize is when you're looking at it from a critical view, you then start to realize the stuff that you could improve
uh,
in your work. So not only are you getting better, like identifying these things and helping someone else, you're actually unintentionally improving your own work by then taking those learnings and applying them, because you can start to see the things that you're doing or not doing, and that's really helpful.
oh
So
yeah.
also puts good stuff out in the world.
Yeah. And then that's how you level up. You do it, you level up with a squad. I think that's like the goal, or you start off as like level 0 and then level 1, and then slowly but surely your squad is like leveling up with you. It's very like greatness in the agency of others. Greatness is in the agency of others, and also like you're the average of the 5 people you hang around with, and then you just so you also get carried by the tide, and I think that's why having like a group is so important. Um,
You just got all the metaphors in really quickly there. You're like, how many can I squeeze into this one line? Like,
bingo card.
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I completely agree. And it's kind of like the mastermind that we've started, which is super cool, is that we have a bunch of us that are all wanting to do. It's not exact. I think this is the other thing. It's not exactly the same thing. And it doesn't have to be exactly the same thing, but it
Yeah.
needs to be similar. Because it's built in accountability, it's built in motivation, especially on the days where you're just feeling a bit like blah.
Uh,
And going back to like 2 conversations I had, like both of them were just feeling a bit like not motivated and like, do
uh,
I even bother? Because I'm like, oh, life is getting in the way. And both left those conversations going, I'm excited again. And that's what you get
no.
from that group of people is you get, oh, okay, no, it is worth it. And I will just do that little bit versus, oh, it just kind of dies a death. And it's another thing that you tried and
Uh,
didn't quite work out.
so yeah, if you're looking to start a squad on your own, I guess what we've talked run through is like post your own stuff on the internet. That
Yep.
helps.
Yep.
Um, start talking to people, commenting on other people's work. That really helps. Um, and if you can't find anything, maybe you can do an open call out to be like, hey, I'm hosting a free XYZ. I think one time I literally just posted on Substack like I'm hosting a free co-working session to update all of our about pages, and I just posted a Luma link and people can just join. And I think I've had people who like are in Rite of Passage, and I've also had people who are not part of Rite of Passage that just showed up, and then
Yep.
we just started talking. Like it's so um like it can feel lonely to be on this creator journey, but it's also there's everything is set up for you. You just have to tap into it.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And so just to add on to that, like, don't get discouraged if nobody turns up to begin with, or you only have a
Yeah,
handful of people. Because firstly, you only need a handful of people, and secondly, you
yeah.
again going back to our point, you are going to have to put things out into the world for a little bit.
Uh,
So don't just try it once and nobody turns up and give up. Like, keep putting yourself out there. Like, it will pay off,
uh,
and it is worth it. And I guess that brings us to our community and what we're doing, which is still a little up in the air. But this is exactly what we want to do because we're both
yeah.
very, very passionate about it. And it's very, very important to us, specifically for small creators or people just starting out. Like we found there's a lot of stuff for those and a lot of help for those who have already like established themselves or whatever. And those people kind of tend to find each other. But I think we both want to create that space for small creators
Uh-huh.
in this big world. Hence
Nice.
the name.
Nice.
In case that wasn't obvious, guys. But yeah, we also want to kick off our own community.
Uh-huh.
We're going to do it at the right time. Again, really similar. We want to build that audience and we want to build kind of what we're doing, but that's the direction we're heading. So if that's of interest, then do let us know because we're still trying to figure it out. But that's 100% what we want to do. And again, we want to help with that connecting
Mm.
of people together.
Yeah, because we benefited a lot from like connecting to people when we were still small actually.
We're still very
We're
small,
still very small creators.
some
Um,
literally.
oh, well, people's not gonna know my height if you don't expose me like
Oh,
that.
okay. I'm sorry. Becky's really, really tall. Mm-hmm. Wink.
Yeah, catfishing does happen on the internet. But yeah, it's yeah, we found it useful, so we just want to share the love.
Yeah, yeah. So if you have any ideas, any thoughts, let us know. It will be coming soon. At
Soon.
some point. We're
Yes.
still figuring out what we want to do and how we want to do it, because we do want to make it like this really, really cool place. So
Heck yeah.
yeah. Alrighty. Any final points? Oh, actually, we wanted to end on a quick note about
Oh yeah.
what's happening in the future, or the immediate future.
Or the
So
past by the time you listen to this.
that's a really, really good point. So basically, to do our updates at the end of an episode, it's going to be a busy. So it's almost the end of September for us. Well, not
Mhm.
for us, for everybody. It is the end of September. And wow. So it's the end of September, guys, for everybody. And we're going to be a little MIA, I think, for the next month and a half ish. Hopefully, we have enough episodes in the backlog. And my procrastination of editing episodes has worked out to keep us going through to November. But yeah, Becky, what's going on for you? You go first.
Yeah, next Sunday, the Ali Abdul team is headed off to Bali. We're doing our I don't know what frequency we're doing. We're doing a team retreat, which is something we do every so often, because all of us are spread around the world and in so many different time zones. We generally find it helpful to congregate every once in a while, and Bali's a short stone throw away from Hong Kong, so that's where we'll be. Gonna be there for about 10 days. I think the retreat itself is a week. I'm hanging back with some of the team members. And then I'm back in Hong Kong for exactly 2 days before I fly off again. I'm headed to the States, specifically to West Coast, where the same journalist friend that I met in the association and I are going on a road trip because we are both photography nerds. And so we're doing a road trip to visit national parks, going down from basically we're starting off at Seattle and then making our way down to LA, where I'll stay with my family for a little bit and then I'll come back to Hong Kong and hopefully recover from the jet lag. That's my
Yes.
plan. But by the time I'm back, it'll be like November. That's where I'll be. How about you?
Good plan. Yes. So I don't have quite as exciting life. I love how the team retreat makes it to Bali after I leave. After all the times of pitching Bali. But that's fine, not bitter. No, I think you'll have an incredible time. Okay, cool. What am I what am I up to? I am also going away for work. I'm gonna spend just under a week in Lisbon, which will be
Exciting.
cool. And maybe when we record the next episode, we could both do a little update. Actually, maybe we'll do a little update of all the adventures, because I think we'll have some cool things to update everybody on.
Yeah.
And then I'm doing a little family trip to Egypt, which should be fun.
Fun.
And again, yeah, I'll fill you in on that when I'm back. So that's the plan. So that's what we'll be. So in theory, hectic for us, but you guys, all 7 of you now, shouldn't notice too much of a difference. Either that or you will notice a huge difference, because we'll go from not posting to posting every 2 weeks. But we'll see. We'll see what this lazy editor can get herself up to.
Oh, if you want to start on your own small creator journey, even though we haven't set anything up, you can comment down below and then maybe somebody else will respond to you.
Nice!
Come up with something that you're creating, something that you're curious about, a question that you have. Maybe somebody will reply.
Nice. And don't feel discouraged if they don't.
Yes. Yes. It's all about baby steps. Just putting stuff up into the world and it'll build up.
Yeah. Everyone comment down below.
Yeah.
And
Everyone.
we'll reply.
Yeah, at least us. Two
Yeah.
of us will reply.
Yeah. Alrighty, team. We'll wrap up there. This has been a slightly shorter episode, but I kind of like doing shorter episodes on specific things. So
Yeah.
maybe we'll keep this going. Thanks for listening, as always. Can we have emojis of a plane? I want plane
Ooh.
emojis, please. As well as your whatever you guys are working on.
Yeah.
So you can network in the comments. And yeah, we'll see you in the next one, team.
Yeah, by the next time, it will be November for all of us.
Correct.
We just time
Correct.
skip.
Not just for us.
Yeah.
Oh, God. I'll get better. Alrighty, team. See you in the next one.
Bye.
Bye.